On the 3rd of May 2007 at 10 p.m, a young British child, Madeleine McCann, was reported missing when her mother Kate came back from their apartment after doing a check on her children, shouting, "They've taken Madeleine." The events that followed eventually led to possibly the most famous search in history for a missing person. The Portuguese police would later name Gerry and Kate McCann as suspects in their daughter's disappearance, claiming that Madeleine died of an accidental death in the apartment and the claim of abduction was a hoax. There are many who support this view of the local police, including criminal profiler Pat Brown, statement analyst Peter Hyatt, and a variety of behavioural scientists. That is why this is a debunking video, because it's focusing on the alternative theory of a covering up of an accidental death rather than an abduction. First of all, what's noticeable is the high blink rate when Gerry and Kate are giving their account of events in interviews, and also the answers they give to questions in relation to Madeleine's alleged abduction don't seem compatible with parents who were victims of a child abduction. For example, when Kate was asked if she immediately searched for Madeleine, she replied something to the effect of being non-functioning for an immediate search, but after 48 hours she started. Does that sound like a mother who has just had a child kidnapped? Realistically, the mother of a child that had just gone missing would be immediately frantically shouting and screaming her child's name as she ran around stopping everyone and asking if they'd seen anything as she bawled crying. What it boils down to is, do you look for something if you know where it is? And Gerry, when explaining how ludicrous the covering up of an accidental death is, he says, the only time she was left unattended was when we were at dinner. How could we have disposed of, hidden her body when there was an immediate search? This change from disposed of to hidden her body is because it would have been difficult for him to say disposed of her body if that's what he did. If the child was kidnapped, then it wouldn't be difficult to use that phrase if it was just related to a false conspiracy theory. In a contrasting sense, they seem totally unfazed by the possible harsh realities of the child's outcome if she was abducted. Here's an example.
Conspiracies of silence hide you, keep me out. You're missing, you're gone.
They're able to feign sadness when talking about an abduction because they're sad because she died. But their attitude seems to indicate that she wasn't abducted. We're going to view footage of Gerry answering if he or Kate killed their daughter. This is where the change of wording occurs from disposed of to hidden her body. And a question Gerry asks in this rant directs us to the motive for the cover-up.
Your daughter?
No, that's an emphatic no. I mean, the ludicrous thing is what's been purported from Portugal is that Madeleine died in the apartment by an accident and we hid her body. Well, when did she have the accident and died? Because the only time she was left unattended was when we were at dinner. So if she died then, how could we have disposed or hidden her body, when there was an immediate search? It's just nonsense. So, and if she died when we were in the apartment or fell and did something, why would we cover that up?
According to statement analyst Peter Hyatt, this is what's referred to as an embedded confession. And where there's an abundance of words following a question that only requires a yes or no answer is a sign of deception. When Gerry asks, if she died in the apartment while we were there, why would we cover it up? The answer to this question is the motive for the disposal of her body. The next clip will show why.
And then there were the hurtful rumors that you drugged Madeleine or that you gave her sedatives, that you accidentally caused her death.
I mean, we know it's all lies.
It's just nonsense, there's not that people can have theories and that's all it is. There's no evidence to support any of that and it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's...
Did you understand?
All that has to be said here is liar, liar, pants on fire. Jerry, in their defence, states it's ludicrous, there's no evidence to support that. But then, how could there be any evidence to support that claim when it's disposed of? And this is the motive for Madeline's disposal, because a toxicology report would have shown sleep meds in her system from previous nights, and they would have been disgraced and lost their other two children to child services, and their careers would have been over.
That evening, did you give to your kids something like Calpol to help them sleep?
We're not going to comment on anything, but, there is absolutely no way we used any sedative drugs or anything like that. And, we have cooperated fully with the police. We'll answer any queries, any test that they want to do at any point.
The scratching of his ear and shifty eye movement is another tall, telltale sign. And again, there's an abundance of words following a question that just requires a yes or no answer. In addition, Kate actually said that the abductor must have drugged the twins because of their sleeping undisturbed by the events that followed her announcement of Madeline's disappearance. So, what actually happened? How and when did she die? To answer this, we will first examine the timeline of events on the last day of Madeline's life. The McCanns have breakfast at 7:30 a.m. After spending time around the swimming pool area, the children go to a kids club and Kate and Jerry have a tennis lesson. 5 to 6 p.m, the family return to the apartment. Kate gets the children ready for bed and Jerry goes to play tennis again. 7 p.m, Jerry returns and Madeline is read a bedtime story. The twins are put in a travel cot next to Madeline's bed and they fall asleep. The shutters outside the ground floor bedroom window are down, the window is closed, and the bedroom door is left ajar. 8:30, Jerry and Kate go to the tapas bar to have dinner with their friends. 9:05 p.m, Jerry goes to check on the children. These checks were only to listen for crying, but Jerry noticed that the door was different than how he left it, so he walked into the room and saw all of his 3 children sound asleep. 9:15 p.m, Jane Tanner goes to check on her kids and notices a man carrying a child. Years later, Metropolitan Police revealed this was just a holiday maker with his own child. 9:30, one of the friends offered to check on the McCann's kids while checking on his own. He reports that all is fine and quiet. 10 p.m, Kate goes in to check and notices the children's bedroom door is quite open. As she goes to close it slightly, a breeze slams it shut. She goes into the room, realizes Madeline is missing, and notices the window is open and the shutters are up. The alarm of Madeline's abduction is raised. The mention of Madeline in this timeline of events, such as reading her bedtime story after 7 p.m. and Jerry looking in at her when he noticed the door was different than how he left it, are the McCann's account of events. No one else saw Madeline after the McCanns returned to their apartment between 5 and 6 p.m. There is a report of one of the friends calling to the apartment at 6:30 and claims he saw the 3 children, but his account wasn't in the very specific original timeline of events.
As early as June 30th, 2007, the Portuguese publication Sol published an article titled Pact of Silence, written by Margarita Davim and Felicia Cabrita. This article accused the McCann's friends, many of whom were also doctors, of agreeing as a group, and this group is known as the Tapas 9, not to talk about what really happened on the night of May 3rd, in the evening of 2007. Besides the McCann couple, the remaining Tapas 7 were effectively witnesses to the incident.
It happened something like this. Between 5 and 6 p.m, Jerry leaves for a tennis lesson. Madeline protests her father's departure. When he leaves, she runs through the window to look out at him as children tend to do when a parent leaves against their will, especially children with certain complex conditions. For her to get a look out the window, she had to climb up on a couch, and in doing so in a hurried state, she misstepped and catapulted forward, cracking her skull off the windowsill and dying instantly. Something worthy of note is they are very sketchy when asked if they killed their daughter, so maybe Kate had a hand in it somehow, causing the child to trip as she tried to prevent her going through the window. Kate then left Madeline behind the couch until Jerry returned. This would explain the cadaver alert and blood found in that window area. When he arrived back at the apartment, Kate immediately informed him of the situation. With a looming toxicology report about them for giving sleep meds to Madeline and everything at stake such as careers and family, they emptied the contents of Jerry's tennis bag, placed Madeline in it and disposed of her body. This explains the missing tennis bag. This would place the difference between anyone other than the McCann seeing Madeline and the tennis bag at approximately 1 hour. A waiter at the resort found it strange that Jerry was calmly playing tennis just days after Madeline's disappearance. Mentions of Madeline in the timeline of events, such as reading her a bedtime story and the door being different than the way Jerry left it, prompting him to go into the room where he saw the 3 children sound asleep, is overcompensating to help create a narrative for an abduction, and the report that wasn't in the original timeline of events, such as one of the friends calling to the apartment at 6:30 and seeing all 3 children, is, as considered earlier, quite dubious. There's also a lack of compliance to rule themselves out as suspects in her disappearance, such as a polygraph test, and refusing to answer certain questions, like the 48 questions that Kate refused to answer. It would make one wonder why they weren't willing to take measures to rule themselves out as suspects, because any parent with a child genuinely missing would comply with everything, so total focus would be on the search. Something worthy of note too is there's no evidence of an abduction, and there is evidence of a death, and no one has ever died in the apartment prior to the McCann's stay there. According to Portuguese crime expert Maita Flores, who has no doubt she died accidentally in the apartment, he said it would have been impossible to get through the window with a child.